Good morning, everyone, and welcome on this beautiful spring morning in May to the Electoral Area Services Committee, which is a committee of the Comox Valley Regional District that is concerned with the electoral areas of the rural areas of the Comox Valley and all the services that we provide. Seeing a nice showing in the gallery today, I'll have to go through all the housekeeping items, including in case there's any emergency. We have exits here, as well as where you came in. And we have a muster point in the parking lot. Should there be on the highly unlikely event we have an emergency, we will muster in the parking lot in the front here. That being said, also important to note where the washrooms are. If you go down the hall to the end and left, you'll see that there's two washrooms in the back here that you can operate the doors remotely. So you have to read the instructions to get in there. Other than that, we're all here with bright shining faces on this beautiful morning, as I said, and we've got a fairly full agenda today. Before we get started, I'm going to recognize the fact that we are here on the traditional unceded territories of our Comox First Nation friends. First item in business is delegations. We have a few delegations today, starting with the Comox Valley Early Years Collaborative. Natalie Robinson and Dania Van Rijit from the Comox Valley Early Years Collaborative are here to present for information regarding a request for rural grant funding. So if anybody wants to get up to the mic there and press the little button. Welcome. Pull down the mic a little bit there so that you can pick it. That's it. And press the button and I'll turn you on. You can say, that's it. Okay. You're live to go.
I'm all grown up here. You got this. Oh, okay, cool.
Got the.
Clearly it's our first time here. So thank you so much for having us. I'm Natalie Robinson and this is Dana Van Rit. And we're here from the Early Years Collaborative. And we just want to thank you for your past support of our organization, your funds. When you supported us in the past, it went a long way. Your value of your dollar for our community was stretched and spread over a variety of our programs that we support in the entire Comox Valley. So thank you. Is there a time limit that I have? 10 minutes. Okay. Okay, clock time. Okay. Did you want to change this? Oh, I'm in charge of the slide too. No, you're in charge of that. Okay. So who are we? I don't know if everyone's familiar with the Comox Valley Early Years, but we've been together for over 20 years. We're actually very unique in the province. There are several groups like us in the province, but we're very unique in that we've been running for so long. And we incorporate over 50 members of our community, and most of us are frontline service workers and individuals in the community that support our families and the early years from a direct frontline perspective. So we offer a lot of feedback to the projects that we support because we know we have our finger on the pulse and we know what's happening. And so here are a bunch of our members. We gather every 2 months, and we have a steering committee that kind of drives or at least puts together the agenda and tries to really meet the needs of what our members are looking for and how we can really meet the needs of our community through our membership. What we do, well, you get to watch a little video this morning. If not everyone's awake, you get to just kind of sit back and enjoy. We partnered with the Art Gallery in their youth media project. Do we know how to press play? Arrow down, see video. Oh. Tech support. Pause the time. Does anyone know? Oh, okay. That's really sad. Okay. Well, we can share it with you. Okay. Thank you. It's great. Okay, next slide.
We partnered with the Comox Valley Art Gallery, and they created and the youth media and the Youth Media Project. And they came together and they created a video showcasing a little bit about the different projects we've supported over the past year. So, yeah.
So some of the projects that we have supported that you might remember in the past from your past support is the Connections, Building Connections project. And what I love about a lot of the projects we support is it's based on data, and I like numbers. And so our community has a higher vulnerability rate for our young ones. And we know that when we wrap our services and our support around the littles, it also means we have to wrap our service around the families. And so a lot of the projects that that are formed out of this connection with our early years group is to respond to the data of the vulnerability of the children in our community. And it's increasing. We know that families are struggling. And so we're trying to reach the needs of these families from actual data that they are struggling. And we know that. So Dana plays a very pivotal role. And so the funds that we're asking for is to continue to support her administrative role in coordinating all of us, because we all often do the work through the Early Years Collaborative off the side of our desks, and many of us wear many hats. And so she helps to keep us on track. She helps to manage the minutes. She helps projects like the early years fair, and also the ECE conference once a year that gets sold out. Well, it's free, but within half an hour, 200 of our early years teachers in the community are signed up, and there's a wait list every year. So many things that she does. Did you want to elaborate on your amazingness?
I'll elaborate on the Early Years Fair. This is something that we brought back this year. We brought over 35 booths or tables, so service providers that support families here in the Valley. We brought them all together, and we had over 165 participants, so people from the Valley with young families looking to find out more about services that are out there that can support them and help them. So we do that. And we also work as the coordinator. I also work kind of as a liaison or a networking opportunity. So oftentimes, when people need connections, or after we read the data, we find, oh, we need a support or we need a program here in this community. We can bring a team of people together and support that team. So that's kind of what we do at the Connections Project as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, those programs have started in Black Creek, Merville, Royston, Cumberland, and now Airport. So really reaching out through the whole district and trying to connect with those families that wouldn't normally come into town because they don't have transportation. What we're finding is so many people, as you know, are moving to our valley, and they don't have family, they don't have grandparents, they don't have a network of support. So they're really trying to build those connections, and we're really trying to support them with that. So even the Building Connections project has begun an intergenerational piece to connect a lot of our retired community members with our little ones and build those relationships for the families as well. Some of our highlights that I've already mentioned, but supported successful parent and family community initiatives like the fair, the conference with 200 educators, and just overall strengthening the early years sector in the Comox Valley.
We also take a pretty important role of advocating for the earlier sector as well. There's not a lot of voice for the early childhood educators and for the earlier sector. As we all know, it's an area where we need support, and we need to advocate, and we need to raise awareness about $10 a day programs and affordable childcare and quality childhood educators. So that's another voice that we have in the community as well.
So some of the other things we do as members of the Early Years Collaborative, like myself, is when things come up like the poverty reduction strategy or community-wide events, we do make sure there's someone from our collaborative representing our collaborative. So that way we bring the information back to the group and say, okay, and then we also are able to bring the voice of all of our membership, all these frontline workers supporting the early years in their service, and go back and we give that voice to those initiatives that are very valuable to our community, and you know, where the money is spent and how important it is to focus on the little ones. So the benefits to the regional district is that we do build stronger connections with each other when we network with each other at our meetings. And also it equates to happier children in our school systems, in our homes. We do have healthier families. Our statistics are showing that what we do is proving results, and we want to keep doing it, and we have a passion for it. And we're empowering our families to help themselves. We're not band-aiding, we're giving them tools to thrive, and that's what we all need. Together, we can create a thriving environment for every child in our community, so let's make it happen. How we're aligned with the CVRD's strategic drivers is that we are based on community partnerships, and we want to build more of them. We are continuously working on Indigenous relations and how we can bring that learning into our meetings, into our connections, and support families that way. We want to be accessible, we want to be diverse, we want equality, and we want inclusion. And those are things that come back into our meetings every time and in how we work. So what we're asking for today is a request of $12,000. And this will essentially support Dana's position to coordinate all of us. And again, that money is spent very wisely. There's oversight. We have a steering committee. We approve all of your any tiny spending or paychecks and hours that you work on towards things. And we're very on top of your time. The fiscal host has switched. So we're using, we've partnered with the Comox Valley Family Services Association. And we also are looking for funding from other sources. So we are not only relying on you, but we are asking for your help to do very amazing things in our community. So please help us help you. Our time is up.
Boy, that is amazing timing, right to the second.
You didn't even get to see the video.
Well
Edwin.
done.
What?
Going to open it up for questions, Director Arbor.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation and for coming in, and it's been really good experience with your organization. I think especially when COVID hit, remember we did a survey in the community and supporting early childcare and any adjacent initiatives with that was at the very top of the list. So I represent the South area, Royston to Fanny Bay and Hornby and Denman. And in those 2 years, 2020, 2022, we ended up, I ended up allocating a lot of budget to that. So we increased childcare spaces in Union Bay under the hall and contributed to the Blackberry Lane expansion, rebuild on Denman, and same on Hornby. And then with the building connections, some really good experiences and really good feedback from families I've talked to. I think you were in Fanny Bay at one point.
Yep.
Yeah, you mentioned Royston earlier, but I think you went a little further down the road.
We did.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, so really good work. So maybe to staff, I mean, we just finished our grants and aid budget, and we've did a lot of our allocations. So I'm just not quite sure where would be a good fit to consider a request like that. I know I spend down a lot of my grant and aid, so you're just a little bit after we made those decisions, but do staff have ideas of maybe in the new business we could ask for a little report on how the request could be supported?
Yeah, thanks, Director. I think actually Doug DeMarzo, our General Manager of Community Services, has a few comments to share with the committee, with the delegation here. Typically, the committee won't make action or take action after a delegation. They would look to staff to come back with any kind of analysis or report. But I think, Doug, you've got a bit of context to provide here on this particular request.
Doug?
Thank you through the chair. Yes, there is still a number of funds remaining in your electoral area, rural community grant funding. Of interest is we've been notified that some of the grants that were sent as early as October for the regional deadline didn't quite make it through our IT system. So we're kind of reaching out to groups and making sure if they submitted. So we expect to bring back a report probably in July. So you can have full consideration of any groups that may have been missed. So this is potentially one of those groups that we could bring back at that same time for your consideration. If you want your final remaining funds, I have them here to share, but I'll leave that for a question for one of the directors if they want to know those numbers now.
Yeah.
Okay.
No time
So-
like the present.
So for Denman Island, you have $734. For Hornby, you have 22,355. For electoral area A, you have 9,868. Electoral B, you have 31,446, and electoral area C, you have 39,230 remaining in your funds.
Can you repeat the Bain Sound portion, please?
For Bain Sound, 9,868.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so anyways, Chair, I would be happy to get a report back. And is there, for the delegation, is there, I mean, a coordinator is kind of a yearly position, is there, because it sounds like we're gonna get a report on this in July for consideration, so that would be fine with your organization?
Anything would be fantastic
Okay.
to keep this.
So if something,
wonderful.
Chair, is coming back in July, I'd say maybe we don't need to do new business, we can just be patient and wait a couple months.
Give me a chance to build up my pop bottle
Yeah, yeah.
collection. So,
We take those. We'll take those.
that's great. Any other questions, Director? So just to be clear, you're telling me that Area B has more money than Area C at this point?
No, they have about $8,000 less, but
Well, what was it? Was it 31 then?
yeah, 31,446.
Oh, I can breathe easy then. I thought it was going to be passed by Area B for my funds.
Well, if it's a
That's never
competition,
happened.
we can help you.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. I know that that we needed a lot more ECEs out there. And North Island College is cranking out, what, about 30 a year or something like that still?
Less than 24. 24, well, 24 to 30, but it depends which cohort. This year, I know we had practicum students in our center. They had an international cohort.
Okay.
That will start again this year. So there'll be 2 years before we have an infant toddler designation coming out of the college, unless it's one of a student that's dropped, like that's taken their time to go slowly. It'll be 2 more years before we have a full
It's a
IT.
2-year program then.
It's not, well, there's a 2-year and a 1-year. so
Oh, okay.
1 year, but
If you want to get like the,
under 3-year-olds, we need a
Yeah,
2-year
that one.
designation.
yeah, it's the toughest one. What, 5 to 1 is it? What's the ratio?
4 to 1
4 to
is
1,
the
yeah.
bare minimum. It's not really quality care.
How do you do
3 to
that?
1 is,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't hold 3 babies.
The other thing, of course, is, I know we talked about this before, but was the burnout factor.
It's still
Because you
really,
don't get any breaks. You walk in the door, you got kids hanging on your legs as soon as you walk in.
yeah.
And, just try to get a bathroom break, I mean, it's difficult.
A lot of centers aren't even built with staff rooms. It just wasn't a thing. And it hasn't been a thing for 20 years. So it's coming, but like that's how far we have to go. Yeah. So, and
Yeah,
it's important.
no.
It's such important work because it's our future.
And it helps the economy, right? If you
I was a single father back in the days when it wasn't popular. And I know full well the terror of having to go to work and not having any childcare, and trying to get the bosses in those days to even understand where you're coming from was difficult. So my heart goes out to you guys.
And just because I love stats, but in 2020, we did a needs assessment through the municipality and we needed 3,000 childcare spaces back then.
Yeah.
We know how much our community has grown. And half of the childcare in our community is from home daycares. And so being from a bigger center, like we have over 3,000 people on our wait list for 20 spaces a year. It's really hard. It's really hard to raise children right now and work.
Well, you can see what's the ratio right now? Child per mother right now is very, very low, I think. I mean, look at Korea and those places. It's dismal. So I mean, seriously, folks, I mean, look after the little ones.
You're outnumbered if you have more than two. Anyway, with two parents.
Yeah. so-
Number.
Well, you know, I'm sure we can bring back a report and help you guys out any way we can. So, oh, one more question. This may not be a good question right now, but
They're always
I'm
good.
a rebel. I'm a granddad rebel.
Don't ask me about the wait list.
Where are we at on the $10 daycare?
Well, our center is a $10 a day at Vanier, the two sites there. And so we have a handful in the valley. I know we've applied for Lake Trail for 2 years in a row and haven't been successful. We applied last September and we still haven't heard. They sent me an email last week. Could you send this thing? I'm like, okay. So, I mean, there's lots of stalling. They're rolling out a new format, a new financial requirement that most centers are choosing not to be part of the $10 a day. Some aren't. It's too much, but it's a work in progress. It takes, Rome wasn't built in a day.
And mountains of red tape, of course.
Yeah.
That's government,
Yeah.
part of that.
I could go on, but we're fortunate to serve our families. It's a privilege. So
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Okay, well, I'd like to thank you both for coming and presenting. It was wonderful. Too bad we couldn't get the little video to play, but you made up for it with your enthusiasm.
oh,
We'll get a link, okay?
okay, amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time and for having us. We appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Okay, and feel free to send us more money than we asked for. It's okay. We'll spend it.
Okay. On receipt, anybody opposed? That carries. Number 2, connection Laurel Heights to Royston Elementary by a safe and walkable path. And you don't look like Maggie to me, so you
That's
want to
correct.
introduce yourself.
Yeah. My name's Graham Hahn. I
Hey, Graham.
appreciate you all taking the time today. I noticed we're down one power mustache, but I hope it comes back at some point. Seriously, it's a great photo out
That's
there.
good.
want
I
to see
like it.
back.
Stand-up comic.
That's the only laugh you get this one, unfortunately. We're here for a bit more serious situation that I wanted to draw everybody's attention to. I'm a parent of a Royston Elementary School student, and I'm very thankful to live where we do. We're in a really wonderful place here in this corner of the world, and I wanted to bring light to the need to connect our neighborhood to a safe walkway to Royston Elementary. Ideally utilizing the existing train track path that we have because it is there and currently unused. And my wife Maggie and I, we've got 2 amazing children, Jackson and Jocelyn, and we live a few minutes from Royston Elementary. And we're in the community of Laurel Heights, which is 1 road away. And we share the neighborhood with roughly 30 other children, which would put us at about 15% of Royston Elementary's students. And we cannot walk safely there due to the only route being along Highway 19A, which is insane. And a path from our community through the train tracks behind as a walking alternative has been requested repeatedly over the years and would allow for a safe route from our neighborhood to the school for our kids, as well as a way to connect our communities together to the walking trails back there, to Trent River Trails. It would also lend the ability to connect the neighborhoods behind. And this is a problem that's existed for a very long time. In fact, 2 of our neighbors, Linda and Darylyn, first brought this to the attention of the CVRD 30 years ago when their children were going to school at Royston Elementary. And needless to say, it was not dealt with then. And we're in a situation here where it's been a shockingly long period of time and it needs to get dealt with now. It wasn't safe then, and it's only become more dangerous over time. Over the last 3 years, traffic on the highway has increased dramatically, and with growing communities set for all sides, this trend will continue. The danger was clearly demonstrated a few months back when a Royston student, whose parent is here today, was struck in a completely preventable accident with a truck while attempting to use a crosswalk at a lighted intersection at the corner of Royston Road and 19A. This accident was not only horrific and traumatic for the student and their family, but also for the entire community. And my son and I actually witnessed the neighborhood parents tending to the child on the side of the road as first responders before the ambulance arrived. And this is far from the first incident on this stretch of road. A few years ago, a well-known teacher who was working in Cumberland and commuting home to Union Bay by bicycle was struck on this same stretch of road at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, killed by a drunk driver. Like, there's a negligible shoulder here, which is often obstructed by landscaping vehicles, city trucks, garbage cans, or just cars parked on the side. We have a 60-kilometer-per-hour speed limit here, which is never observed. It doesn't happen. People will zip down that highway at 80 to 100 without blinking an eye every single day, all the time. And even when it's clear, it's not safe at the best of times. And during the winter, it could be out of commission for weeks as the snow gets pushed to the edges. And it's not an appropriate place to send our kids twice daily. Now, there's a multi-use path that's in development and planned for Royston Road, and it's meant to make the walk safer along that roadway. Without further connection to it, from neighborhoods to the south and east, it's very limited in the impact that it can truly have on the community. The project will add a sidewalk down Royston Road, but it will also take away parking and further add to congestion in an already crowded area because parents are not able to walk or bike to school to get their children home safely. Having a proper path out of Laurel Heights will allow a significant reduction in the number of cars traveling to and from school every day and further increase the safety of our kids there. Now, with this significant investment going into this path, it's worth noting that our community doesn't connect to the path currently. We're considered too close to qualify for the bus. So driving and making the hazardous walk are literally the only options, which is consistent frustration for all the parents. And I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce two other people who are going to be speaking with me today, Shelley and Leah. And both have actually been mentioned in this story already. Shelley is a parent from the community who actually brought this to the attention of our community through a post on Facebook, which Daniel, you're actually a part of. And this is something that's been brought up for a long time, and it was recognized as a problem back then in September of 2020. And her husband actually was one of those first responder parents that we mentioned when Leah's child was struck at the crosswalk there. So both of these families have been heavily affected by this. So I'd like to invite them both up to share their experience.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's been 5 years since I posted that when I first started walking my 5-year-old along with my 2.5-year-old to the school every day. We had just moved to the community. I grew up in Royston. I went to Royston Elementary, and I was actually at the school when a teenager was struck on the highway, and that's when the original lights were put in. She was not killed, but it was a close call. She was very badly injured. I remember that as a child. And then I was shocked by how few children walked to school when I moved back to the community. But I realized very quickly why. It's not safe. It's very scary to walk along there. Anyway, yeah, my husband was on scene when my son's best friend, Leah's child, was struck by a truck. And the intersection, which was on the map, which is where the new path is designed to lead you. If you see the crosswalk right in the top corner there, that crosswalk is unsafe for children to cross ever in the state that it's in now. I would say I walk this twice a day, most days. And I would say at least every 4 to 6 weeks, I am cut off by a car, who crosses turning left into that crosswalk while I am in a marked crosswalk with a walk signal. And that's an adult who is able to be aware and see children or see cars coming. My kids are not aware enough to cross in a crosswalk that is that unsafe, that they're put in mortal danger every 4 to 6 weeks at the best of times. Anyways, I'm going to let Leah give her experience.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Leah Densmore. So yeah, my year-old was struck and hit by a car, and sorry, I'm ill prepared. I'm very nervous, and it's really upsetting to bring back up. The experience for us was that Rowan was thankfully not seriously injured. It could have been so much worse. But what has been a result of that is extreme anxiety. We can't walk to or from school anymore. I literally live 3 minutes from the school and I have to drive them. That's like adding to the traffic and the congestion. Rowan is terrified to be anywhere near vehicles and in parking lots. And my husband and I have to work, so we can't always be there to pick up. I rely on Shelly a lot to walk my kids home. And this week, actually, I have to hire a babysitter to walk them home because I can't take time off work to pick them up. My husband is working out of town. It was just like the scariest phone call I've ever received in my life, that my child was struck, and no parent wants to get this phone call. And I just think it's so, like, the reason, sorry, we've lived in the community for 3 years, and the first 2 years my husband and I struggled with, do we let the kids walk home from school because we have to work? But the year that we did, exactly what our fears were happened. So it's really important to get safety for our kids in the area. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Sorry, I made you tell that story again. Oddly enough, we actually brought this situation up when we first moved to the neighborhood. Daniel, about 4 years ago, you were walking around the neighborhood for community engagement, knocking on doors, and this is what we talked about, is this exact path. And we are in a situation where nothing's been done. No residents backing onto the train tracks have been connected with. Like, we haven't had any forward movement on this, and recognizing the need doesn't count and doesn't help if it's not followed by action. And our community here is crying out for a solution. We've been at this for 3 decades now, and we can't ignore the problem any further. And I wanted to quickly read a statement from a teacher at Royston Elementary, from Matthew Zedvorny. I've lived in Laurel Heights for 7 years, and in that time, not once have my kids, now in grade 2 and grade 5, been able to walk to school. I also teach at Royston Elementary, and I can say for certainty that the 19A is simply not a safe option. There are no sidewalks, no shoulder, and too much fast-moving traffic. This has been an ongoing issue since we moved to the neighborhood, and it's deeply frustrating. As a teacher, I've taught many students who live nearby, and none of them walk to school either. It's not for lack of interest, it's a lack of safety. Creating a walking path from Laurel Heights to the railway tracks would finally give our families a safe, healthy, sustainable way to access the neighborhood school, and it's long overdue.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing. Director Arbor has a question.
Mostly comments, but thank you so much for the excellent presentation. And I'm so sorry that that happened. And I mean, there were other incidents mentioned too, and none of them are acceptable. And I do have a lot to say on this, so if you give me some latitude, then we can converse some more. The issue of safety and how pedestrian and bikers are treated is indeed longstanding, and in fact, the project we're trying to do right now, and I'm saying we're trying to do because we are nowhere near the finish line with the project you presented. It's difficult, and I'll probably send this whole clip that we're doing right now to our Ministry of Transportation colleagues, so they watch it as well. We're having problems finishing the project we're on right now because of disagreements and different policies that exist. at the province in regards to how roads are treated that are managed by the ministry and their very own active transportation goals. And there's a gap there in policies. And so we end up discussing silly stuff around design when really that project should probably be done by now. And the way we go at the regional district is, we're not responsible for the roads. We don't budget for the roads. So like the municipality, we can't just go and execute our own project. If that project was done, we'd probably be working on this now, on the Laurel Drive issue, and then up Royston Road towards Cameron. But now what I've never thought about is actually, I was trying to get into the Cameron area, but actually if we do this Laurel, maybe we can find an entrance into the Cameron area at the same time. I've never thought of it. So that could be super beneficial, but that is the intent, is that phase 2, we're going to keep it extending, one towards Marine Drive and one up the road and then into Laurel. So I think I had some emails, and the effort by the community is really good, because I like it when I get a lot of email, and it's well organized, and you guys are well organized, so kudos for that. And I think my question in my response last month was, we've had issues identifying, because the subdivision was never designed with a right of way but I'm hearing through the grapevine, and I don't know if Doug has any information on that, but I'm hearing rumors that there might be a spot where we could connect. And maybe if you want to share that information today, that was one of the major hurdles. Before I pass it to you, the second hurdle, which I don't think is as big, but we would need to put a path down working with the ICF, with the Island Corridor Foundation. And we would definitely need to engage Comox First Nation on that. And so, yeah, and I don't know if Director Hardy will want to comment on this, but, the ICF, we haven't put any trails in Area A along the corridor. Partly the rationale was that if the rail was abandoned, then maybe the whole thing could be turned into a trail. So we haven't invested money towards that. This is years away from being resolved. In the interim, especially for such a short section, I would be quite happy that in that project, we actually work towards that, engaging with Comox First Nation, the ICF. I know from an ICF perspective, having talked to Thomas, the CEO, lots of support. They want to see more use of the rail line, and small projects like that have been done in all other regional districts except ours. So there's some future action, but if you want to comment, you seem to have more information on the possible spot where we could have a right of way.
I definitely do.
I'm really curious.
Yes. So number one, the corridor is grossly underutilized right now, and it has the opportunity to really do what we've been talking about here, which is connecting the community in a safer way. And what's been highlighted here is there is one property, 3795, or I think it's lot 32, which has currently a drainage easement set from the railway that's currently just lined with dying cottonwood trees. And that property I know also has some drainage issues because of it. So if that property owner were to be connected with and talked with about repurposing that cottonwood tree path that is just over a drainage ditch, that is something that could be very easily put into a trail with a fence on either side, which would cost us basically nothing. And man, I've got neighbors with chainsaws ready to help. We could get this done very quickly and very effectively while having to change basically nothing, in a way that we can then have all of these families have a safer way to go. We also know that the railway is very unlikely to be utilized by rail, and the New Space First Nation has made it pretty clear they don't have an interest in having that come back. So we really need an opportunity to make use of what we have here. What we have is a safe path that we cannot touch currently.
That's great. Thanks for that info. And also notice Robin is in the back of the room. We had a really good meeting with the Ministry of Transportation, I think, on Friday. and the head for Vancouver Island came here to very much talk about active transportation and safe pedestrian issues. In that case, was a group further down Mystery Beach. You're one of 5 groups that are actively advocating for positive changes. Union Bay still doesn't have a crosswalk across the highway. Shiny Bay, you can't get to the hall, like the whole thing. And our discussion actually for a good half hour with them was over time to turn Highway 19A into not a highway, into a local route. And I think there was some acknowledgement that long-term that makes sense. The steps for them at the ministry to get there are arduous, but I think I could see that they could see a vision like that in the long run. That's great on the potential property. Now we have an experienced team at the regional district that is used to negotiating right away or property purchases or anything like that. So that's something tangible that I'm really happy the community has identified that we could pursue. And I also note that this is quite close to other properties on the Cameron side that maybe we could try to do that.
Yes, it is.
None of that will happen without us initiating a project on this. So if you look at this project coming out of 2020, we started with Royston School and then it's taken us, when did we start? 2021. It's taken us 3-4 years to get that project to the place where we put a project together. We got provincial funding. In that case, this was a lot of money. In this case, we would still need to figure out how to negotiate a right of way and stuff. I'd be really happy to have any staff kind of comment on this while the delegation is here around. First of all, I keep hearing from our parks that we're at full capacity. So I'm from Hornby, like I know we like things fast and I know the chainsaws and we can do it all, but if you want it to be secured for the long term with a right of way, like could staff comment on what a path to that could look like to include this into our work plan?
Thanks, Director. And yeah, some good observations and certainly some good information from the delegation. So I appreciate bringing that forward. And I'm glad that you mentioned the work plan with the Parks Department. There's substantive work in front of all of our departments, whether it's our long range planning or our Parks Department. Any sort of initiative like this that I can see there is, pardon the pun, but not a pun. There's a path forward to be able to realize some of these things. Not all of the steps along the way, and actually most of the steps along the way are not in the regional district's purview or control. So it means working with other parties and finding that legal mechanism to be able to have a safe and secure route over the long term, and being able to provide the infrastructure that will be lasting. And to do that, we would have to work with our partners, whether it is Ministry of Transportation, Island Corridor Foundation, and others, to be able to realize that kind of an outcome. And it would take a report coming back to this committee for you to understand how this kind of work might be able to be supported in a work plan, and which services would undertake this, whether it is parks or long range planning. You referenced Robin, who's in the back of the room, and Doug is here as well from a community services perspective. So we've got a few people that could speak to this, but I don't want to put that out much farther. We would want to come back and talk about what services might be able to undertake this, what kind of scope might be needed, and then how that balances with your existing work plan and your existing priorities, which all have full plates, as you know. So I think if you're interested, then a report back to this committee to talk about some of those options would be important, recognizing we do have other work on the plate that we're working towards finishing.
Yeah, thank you. To my fellow directors, I think this small project really exemplifies another reason why, as we're dealing with these localized area, I'm hearing we're at capacity, but as you know, Area A contributes 24% of the budget of the Park Service, and we get 11% back in the operation spending. So, it's frustrating for me when I hear that we don't have capacity and all that when we just keep shipping money to area B and C. And for me, the long-term future is definitely to split out area A, create a service that is parks, active transportation, and recreation together for Royston to Fanny Bay. And I hope the directors that can see that an issue like that, we should be able to have the space for it, right? But Seal Bay and Nim Falls and all that just keep taking all the room in our budgets. That's aside, sorry. That's internal to our consideration, but it's actually quite impactful, in my opinion, in our ability to move forward on projects like this. So, you know, I'm so appreciative that you brought the delegation forward. I'm definitely going to push for this. I mean, priority number one is to get the project finished because it's not guaranteed in my view. We're having issues with that project with the ministry, and second is to gear this one up. And maybe what I'll do is, in the past, if you've heard me speak, I've talked about Marine Drive, like that next stretch. But I'll just change my tack and ask that we prioritize this one, because I think you're right that it will serve a lot more kids and neighbors. And there's probably greater safety risks walking around Highland Highway from Wellington to Royston Road than there is from the beach to the highway. So I'll maybe switch that coming out of that delegation and then try to gear that up with our staff. And that under new business, I'll just ask for a staff report to see what that could look like. That's kind of a boring next step, but yeah.
Just to add one question to all the directors as you consider this. I know that all the plates are full. I know that there are a lot of priorities to share, but I would ask you to keep in mind how many priorities actually have a consistent risk of injury or death. Because that's what we're talking about here ultimately. And we're 30 years in. And if we continue to ignore it and say it's too hard or it's the ministry's problem, it very quickly will become your problem. This is your area and you have the ability to do something here.
I would like to add that I don't want to raise false hopes. We are children of the province of BC, and we do not have jurisdiction over this stuff as much as we want to do it. I've got the same issue up in Area C. I've got Solom River, the Solom School. I've got the Merville Hall, Sackville Road area, high crash sites at Ham Road, kids that can't get across the school bus. So it's a bigger picture, but I would say you're going to have to go above our heads and engage the ministry
That's next.
through your own MLA, and you've got a very competent MLA down south. So I would think that, you know, you have to pursue this on multiple levels. And if we're going to bring back a report, it should be all encompassing and address this whole issue. We've got another item coming up later in the meeting today. Subdivision up on Arden Road. The city of Courtney owns the land. I don't know how they got it back in the day. And very much the same, cul-de-sacs, right next to the old logging road. Now, the kids use the logging road to get to Arden Road School, but there's no access, no easement on that whole plan. You have to go all the way back to Arden Road and all the way along Arden Road to get to the school. So somewhere somebody's not getting the message here. So we can certainly add our voices to the choir. But as far as actually, you know, I'm sorry, I've been doing this for 14 years and I'm getting tired of advocate, you know, to senior government for this and that and the other thing, because I don't really see too much coming back. So I'm a little jaded on this, a little bit cynical, because this is a reoccurring issue. And when it comes to children and safety in schools and things like that, I mean, it's not just a pleasurable walk for mom and dad to have a coffee. This is very important stuff. But planners, as competent as the city of Courtney have, aren't getting the message. So, and they have control over roads. So it's you know, I think we need to bang the drum.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to knock on a different door.
Well, we will try that as well. I mean, just to make very clear on this one, we don't need to involve 19A. we can look at our neighborhood and the Island Corridor Foundation, of which we happen to have somebody on that council right now, at least for another couple of months, which is great. So this is our opportunity to do it. If we keep waiting, if we keep pushing this project back, it is only going to become more difficult. So it really does need to be a unified approach. We will absolutely be knocking down the doors of the MLA and the MP as well. But we need as much effort from this council as we can possibly get, because this is something that can change very quickly and very easily if we make it a priority to do so.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and you know, even if we just look to negotiate the right of way, that would be a huge, one huge step, actually. So I don't disagree that that's a great way. And then if we negotiate the right of way, then we can approach ICF, et cetera, right? So that's probably number one. Dr. Grieve, I understand your frustration, but we are getting stuff done. Like the project around Royston School, we got funding from the province, and Josie was there, our MLA, and she's very supportive, and be happy to introduce her to your group to talk about this issue and have a walk around. Yeah, and I know the province will be supportive. They give about 150 million a year for active transportation, but as you say, like this one is actually not that complicated. The ICF part would be, because you would want a better track in the longer term, right? A better pathway, but this all along there, people are already walking that line all the time. So I'm not also blind to the practice. Yeah, for today, I think that's. I'm really hopeful now around this one, and again, we don't know if and if it's not that homeowner, maybe there's other homeowner. So that would be really willing. So yeah, we'll follow it up under new business to try to gear that up into our work plan, and go from there.
I appreciate it. If you get me that right away, I'll get you a path.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Actually, once we get, my final comment, once we get right away, like if you've been around the regional district, our park staff does an amazing job of developing. And I mean, once we get things on track, it's good. And we bring it to a high standard and all that stuff. It's just initiating that is difficult. Yeah. Thank you.
Might also mention, we do have a $19 per parcel tax for funding for parks. So we could always consider bumping it up $1, which would be huge in the end. So I mean, need more budget. It's after all, it's your money coming back to you. Correct.
And just a little heads up, sometimes those things might go quiet, because whenever we talk about property acquisition, we go behind closed doors. So all of a sudden the public doesn't hear anything. So just a heads up that in those situations, that would be likely to happen.
Yeah, I guess the point, the closer we get to actually being able to make an announcement, the more flack we get personally, because we're not doing anything and we have to bite our tongues for years sometimes. So seeing no more discussion around this, did we get a motion to receive it? I think maybe we should. You're gonna make a motion to receive the report? You did you on this time? Okay, well, that was the first one, but okay, I'll second that. Okay, and so on receipt, anybody opposed? That's carried. It's official. Very good. Now, over the pond to Devon Island Community Education Societies here, Gracie McDonald, Enrico Wari, Becky Nyquist, and the Devon Island Community Education Society present information regarding recreation programs for children and youth. It's all about the kids this meeting, isn't it? That's great. Okay. Welcome, guys. Hello, folks.
Hi. Yeah, I'm the retired principal of Huban Park, so that whole conversation was pretty familiar and sad to be hearing. You know, as you say, it's everywhere. Yeah, so this is Enrico Wari. He is the chair of our Denman Island Community Education Society Board, and I'm the executive director. And we are here at the invitation of Doug. It was a good suggestion. We were supposed to be at the rec committee, but we got moved today. So sorry to take up more of your time here. Our mandate Our mandate has been since 1996 to provide educational, recreational, and cultural programming. When the organization was started, there were about 500 people living on Denman, and we are now at 1,400. And our demographics have changed also. We have 42 kids under school age right now on Denman. And the socioeconomic, I would say, conditions have changed considerably. So we are also a central organizing body for other groups, such as some of the seniors groups, some of the unorganized nonprofits that do a lot of work on Denman. Very little of our budget actually comes from the school district. It is $20,000 plus some extra money to provide their food programs for them. And we also have to pay rent for most of the programs that we offer. So we rent parts of the main hall. And when we do evening programming coming up, we'll be renting from the school district as well. So we try to include homeschoolers as much as we can. And we also offer summer camps. We offer the weekly teen night. We do evening and weekend workshops for adults. And we are offering a 7-week program this summer to our summer camp kids. We are the only nonprofit recreational organization on Denman. We try to provide as much multi-age support as we can, involving seniors with kids. One of the programs that I'm pretty happy about is our 0 to 4 program, which is called Growing Up Denman. It happens during the school day in the school, and its purpose is to support parents and to help kids become comfortable with the school and to connect with community supports and Blackberry Lane. We also do programming with Hornby Denman Health and special events in the community. We also manage the food bank, which is a huge part of our work and our budget. We have lots of volunteers for that and a part-time person. We help Blackberry Lane with their food programs as well. And we do the market coupon program and the hamper program at Christmas. So a lot of different parts of the job. I wanted to bring up our budget. We have about approximately $200,000 budget. Almost all of that's wages for program facilitators. Our local grant sources. So the district provides us with $20,000 and then another $12,000 for the food programs. And we get $9,000 from you guys, thank you very much, through DERA. And we also applied for and received a $2,000 grant this year, thank you. And Denman Works has given us a little bit of money to help with our webpage this year. We actually put in an application in November for an operating grant from you guys, and it got lost in the firewall. So that's why Doug suggested we come here and chat with you guys. What is the cost of the cost of having less money in our budget means less recreation programs and less employment for Denman people, and more reliance on private donations and more of my time spent on fundraising, basically. So yeah, it is a cost to the island. So as I said, we did apply for a $25,000 grant. We were hoping that we could set up something that would be an annual contribution directly to us. And that didn't happen this time, but we're hoping that you'll consider some kind of a grant towards recreational programming on Denman. So, yeah. And I think, Enrico, did you want to say something?
Yes.
Yeah.
So just to add a little bit more to your presentation. So we run a bunch of projects. One of the biggest projects that we've run lately was the covered recreational space, which I believe we also got some funding from the CBRD, which was
That's it.
so that's that space. So that was a several $100,000 project. And talking about bang for buck, vast majority of the work was done by volunteers. It was overseen by volunteers. There were retired builders involved and are still involved, and it's an ongoing project. This is almost as important a space, for instance, as the community hall in our community. And one of the big challenges that we have on Denman is that people are spread all over the island with very little options to actually get together, except for in the village, where we are kind of building this area where we have intergenerational contacts, we have contacts between people of different socioeconomic backgrounds, of different political ideologies, which is a big one in our community, and particularly the focus was here a little bit on recreation, but learning is a very, very big thing for diocese. And it used to be before COVID that we had a really abundant adult programming going where people learned about how to assess your soil so you can grow more productively, or how can you fix a certain tool, or like really practical things and things that basically stretch over the entire demographics on Denman. And we have lost that during COVID. We really have lost that. We luckily, we kind of made it through without really big damages, but we're currently in the process through our food bank accreditation to overhaul our organization, look at policies, human resources stuff, to get actually to a level where we operate professionally. And you know, Hornby and Denman in the past was not always very professional and necessarily in the way that things were done. They were done, but they were not always done in a way that after the fact one could actually see what was done, how was it done, where did money come from, etc. Where did money go? And we're in the process of changing that. And we realized that our budget is not sustainable. The way we have been doing business, fundraising, finding a penny here and a quarter there, it just doesn't work when we have an annual budget of $200,000. And so that's why we're here and looking for your support, basically.
I'll turn you on. Director Arbor has some questions.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. And I'll start with the side comment, which was, I think the last federal election would hint that the political ideology is not that diverse on that. It was actually a pretty hegemonious result. But that aside.
It might have been strategic voting.
Yeah, it might have been strategic voting, but nonetheless effective. So you didn't really name an amount that you were looking for above and beyond. Well, you sort of suggested 20,000. Is that what I heard?
The original was 25,000.
Yeah, so those are big sums in this sense of how we've done it in the past, and I want to acknowledge that Diocese does amazing work, and I agreed, like the both at the program level and also with the cover spade. I think we were indeed one of the first funders to sign up for that one with just around COVID, I think, when the project started, because there was a lack of public space and community hall. That was kind of the it looks beautiful. It looks fantastic. I was just there a couple of weeks ago. So in terms of budget, I guess maybe the problem we have is your ask is kind of coming within our grant and aid, which is heavily subscribed to, is really designed as a program that's yearly. And then looking at staff for diocese, especially if a lot of the new funds that we would contribute go towards recreation, I don't think you've been in the Denman Island recreation budget in the past. That budget we mostly put in for the facilities, the activity center and the community hall. Which is interesting because while on Hornby we have a rec team within HIRA, and they draw their own budget. And I see they're up to 40,000 a year now, requisitioned from the regional district. So the good news for you is that, well, the bad news is it's hard to see 20,000 fitting, but the good news is the requisition for Denman Island Recreation is not fully subscribed. We have a maximum levy of 40,000 and we're currently requisitioning 18,000. So my tendency for this one, because it's probably not going to be sustainable for you to come back with a big ask like that for the grant and aid when your ask is actually the total size of our funds for about 20 nonprofits on Denman, right? So maybe a more fruitful conversation would be to engage with our staff around a conversation around what would it look like for diocese to be included in the Denman Island Recreation budget.
Yeah.
And again, they might tell me right after Director Arbor, you know, like this is for facilities only, you would have to change the bylaw. There's a lot of question mark that I don't have the answers to, but that's, to me, that'd be probably the best way to look at it, because grants and aid will be really hard to fill a request like that. So that's my feedback.
And if I may add, so the 200,000 budget, that is for a shrunk to the absolute minimum kind of programming and activity that we have. So our goal is actually to have a core funding so that we can run our core programs and our core activities, and then raise additional funds in order to build more programs so that we're back to kind of the dimensions that we were before COVID.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I'd like to say 3 of your funders are actually CVRD. When you look at Denman Works, those budgets are approved at this table and probably DERA as well. So, you know, if you're looking to have a more comprehensive approach, it'd be best discussion. Our staff is really good at those kind of
I
discussions.
think it makes more sense for us to be funded directly than to be applying to
Everybody.
everybody else.
Yeah, no, I don't
You know,
disagree, because
for
right now,
the same money.
your slide made me realize we have
Yeah.
3 different tentacles into your organization.
Yes.
Maybe we should just have, oh, he's nodding, good. Maybe we should just have a master contract for all of it that provides stability and also more clarity, and then, then, you know, I like that idea. So that's my thoughts. Maybe under new business, I'll ask if we can get a report on this later today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Well, thanks so much for that presentation. And looks like we're going to be tasking staff with more reports. But I do like what Daniel Arbor has come up with. I think it should be part of a bigger picture somehow. I mean, you say we have maximum rep of 40K and we're using 18. There you go. There's something there. Maybe not the full amount, but something we can work towards. As you know, everything's in a silo. Motion to receive the report and seconded. Oh, anybody opposed? That's carried. Well, we're going to move on to the next portion of our program right now. But first, we're going to receive the resolution status report. Moved and seconded. Any questions? Anybody opposed? That carries. Into Advisory Planning Commission minutes. We have minutes from the Agriculture Advisory, the Area A Advisory, Area C Advisory, and the Area B Advisory. Move receipt of all of them together. Is there any questions on any of them? Seeing none. Anybody opposed? That also carries. Pardon me. Now, number 2, Electoral Area B Development Variance Permit 1B25, 1824 Preston Road. Report for receipt. And over to staff for introductions.
Thank you, Chair. Planner 1, Carter Ruff, will be introducing the staff report and available for any questions. And I don't see any applicants in the audience, but maybe Carter, if anybody's online, you'll introduce the applicant if they're online. So over to you.
Thank you. Through the chair to committee members, I would just first like to introduce the applicant, Eric E. Raponen, who is joining us on Zoom today. Staff have received a development variance permit application to reduce the side yard setback from 3.5 meters to 2.87 meters for the construction of a detached garage. The structure was issued a development variance permit for reduced rear yard setback and a building permit in 2024. During construction, project personnel misinterpreted the zoning bylaw and advised the applicant the minimum side yard setback was 1.75 meters instead of the zoning minimum of 3.5 meters. As a result, the foundation was poured in the minimum side yard setback approximately 2.87 meters away from the side property line. Upon receiving an as-built site survey indicating the unlawful siting, staff issued a stop work order and instructed the applicant to obtain a development variance permit before further advancing construction. The Advisory Planning Commission for Electoral Area B considered this file at their April 24th meeting and voted unanimously to support the application. Staff notified adjacent property owners of the variance application 2 weeks before this ESC meeting, and to this date, one response was received in support of the application. Staff recommending this variance be approved as a setback reduction is minor and not anticipated to alter neighborhood character, generate privacy concerns, or impact the ability to maintain the structure. Staff and the applicant are now available to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Looking to the directors. Is there any questions regarding the report? And the applicant is present. Does he want to say something? There you go, hands up. Are you muted? Try again. Are you live?
Hello.
There you go.
Oh, hi there. No, I don't have anything to add. I just want to let Carter know that I've been called worse names before.
So there you go. So no questions there, nothing to
Nope.
add. So staff did a great job. So over to the directors. Any further comments, questions, queries? Call the question on receipt. Anybody opposed to receipt? That carries. Now there is some correspondence for receipt. Now we have correspondence from David Arnold, who was an adjacent neighbor. Motion to receive that. Moving second on receipt. And there's no addendum, no writing. So that's the only correspondence we have on this file. Anybody opposed? That carries. So there's a recommendation attached that the development variance permit DV 1B25 be approved to reduce the minimum yard setback from 3.5 meters to 2.87 meters for the construction of an accessory building. It's moved and seconded. Seeing no further discussion on the recommendation, anybody opposed? That also carries. Thank you very much. Number 3, Electoral Area C site-specific amendment to floodplain management bylaw application FR1C25 at 8832 Driftwood Road. Report. Moving second on the report. And over to introductions.
Thank you, Chair. Planner 1, Alberic Marginet, is here to introduce this report. And so Alberic, I'll turn it over to you. And again, I'm presuming that we have an applicant online possibly, so.
That's correct. Through the CAO to the chair and directors, the agent for this application, Dan Sartori, will be joining us virtually. And I'd like to attend him. I would like to invite him to move his situation to panelist in order to provide comments.
I think you're online.
Hello, yes, I'm here. Dan Sartori.
Oh, there you are. Thanks. Okay.
Thank you.
Proceed.
through the chair to the chair and directors. An application has been received for a site-specific exemption to the floodplain management bylaw for a property at 8,834 Driftwood Road. The purpose for this exemption is to replace the principal residential dwelling unit on the property with a new principal residential dwelling unit. The applicant has provided a geotechnical assessment report written by a professional engineer in support of this development, as per the requirements of the floodplain management bylaw. The report prescribes a flood construction level of 5.21 meters Canadian Geodetic Vertical Datum 2013 and establishes that the year 2100 floodplain setback is over 300 meters to the southwest of the property, leaving no developable envelope on site. Thus, an exemption from the bylaw is required. The engineer prescribes a lesser minimum floodplain setback for this property of 12 meters from the year 2100 natural boundary. This recommended lesser setback is located seaward on the property. The engineer's report concludes that the land is considered safe and suitable for the use intended, provided that the recommendations in the report are followed. Staff recommend this exemption because the engineering report will be registered as a covenant on title, and the approach is in line with the provincial guidelines. I'm happy to answer any of the director's questions, and the applicant, Dan Sartori, is also available to answer questions that you may have. Thank you.
Very thorough. Thank you very much. Dan, you have something to add?
Not at this time, other than Albrecht mistakenly said 8834 for the house number when it's actually 8832. But I'm looking at the report and it does seem to say 8832. Must have been just a misspoke number.
Oh, good. That means the excavator won't demolish the wrong house.
That's true. Best avoid that circumstance for sure.
Thank you. So any questions from directors? I see Director Arbor has a question.
Yeah, thanks. Since we're picking apart the staff report, I'll have my tiny little adjustment request as well. I'm fine with the proposal overall, but I was just surprised to see the words "the natural boundary of the Strait of Georgia." I thought that 10 years ago the province had officially changed the name to the Salish Sea. Am I incorrect in that, or why do you? Like you're in the Salish Sea.
I'm imagining, I'm looking in the recommendation itself, and that's where you're referencing the Strait of Georgia, Director Arbor, and I'm imagining that that's probably the legal description that would be on title and probably continues to be on title, even if a name change has been instructed. Albert?
That's correct. The CAO is indicating that that's what's described on title, and that's what is described on title.
Interesting. I thought that would be updated, but I guess we'll learn more from the Gulf of America as well as they go through all that. Yeah. So
You stole my life.
thanks.
See, my sense of humor is rubbing off on you, Director. Yeah. Well, that's a minor one. So we otherwise there's no comments on the report as it was presented. I'm going to call a question on receipt. Anybody opposed? Then that carries, and there's a recommendation as well. Moving second on the recommendation. Any further discussion, comments, questions? Seeing none on the recommendation. Anybody opposed? Then that carries. Thank you, Albert. And on again to Electoral Area C, zoning bylaw amendment RZ1C25. I don't know what the, 8757/8761 Oyster River Way. Moving second on receipt, and we have Jody.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Jody McLean, Senior Planner, will be introducing this report. And I guess I'll say it again. I'm presuming that the applicant is probably online, but I'll let Jody get himself settled and then introduce the report.
Okay, Jody.
Yes, thank you to the CEO, to the chair and directors. The applicant was striving to be here, but I do not see him in the gallery or online. So this is a request to amend the zoning bylaw as it affects a single property in the Saratoga Beach area at the corner of Cedar Ridge Drive and Oyster River Way. That Cedar Ridge Drive subdivision was created in 2019 as 7 2-hectare lots consistent with the minimum parcel size of the existing country residential 1 zone. And the applicant today, Jonathan Brenner, is seeking to further subdivide one of those lots, the corner lot, to create 2 1-hectare lots. This, of course, needs a rezoning down to a zone that accommodates for that new minimum lot size, making this application necessary. In terms of buildings, the existing CR1, Country Residential 1 zone, has a development potential of 2 houses, and this lot is already developed with those 2 houses. And if successful, the new zone and the subdivision would allow for an additional 2 houses, plus some accessory buildings. And this is all within the Black Creek Oyster Bay water system, and a new connection is available for the new lot. The owner will pay a development cost charge for that, which helps fund the expansion of the water system's capacity. Mr. Chair, this is located within the official community plans settlement nodes, which are intended to accommodate most of the growth within the unincorporated areas. The proposal is consistent with the policies here, and therefore staff is recommending proceeding with the proposal. If the committee does agree and to proceed, staff will issue external agency referrals and return to you with a draft bylaw.
Thank you very much. Jonathan, you online?
I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you wish to comment or make any statements?
Yeah, no, nothing further to add. It's just, I think, consistent with what the area is looking for and trying to add additional lots to provide additional housing that we need.
Thank you for that. Looking to the other directors, any questions? Well, I think we're good. Let's move ahead on receipt of report. Anybody opposed to receipt? Seeing none, that carries. And there's a recommendation. I'll move it. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, anybody opposed to the recommendation? Then it carries. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.
And moving on, zoning amendment referral from City of Courtney, 2555 Cumberland Road. Oh, it's on Cumberland. There you go. Report for receipt. Move to second on receipt. And over to Stephanie.
Thank you. Yeah, Stephanie Pollock, Planner 2, will be introducing this report and available for any questions that may follow. Stephanie.
Thank you. Good morning through the chair to the committee. I'd first like to introduce the applicant, Mehar Niraman from Guide Engineering, who is joining us on Zoom. A referral from the City of Courtney has been received to consider a zoning bylaw amendment to facilitate a proposed mixed housing development at 2555 Cumberland Road. Proposed is a residential subdivision with 80 small residential lots for 1 to 4 units, 73 row homes, and 155 apartment units. This makes for a range of 306 to 537 potential units. Storm, sanitary, and water services would be provided through the extension of city water and sewer infrastructure. Bioswales and a detention pond are proposed to service the development. And there are 4 park areas proposed on site. The subject property is currently undeveloped and forested within the City of Courtney's jurisdiction, directly adjacent to the settlement expansion area in Electoral Area C. As such, this proposal was referred to the Area C Advisory Planning Commission. The APC did not provide specific feedback and resolved to support the review of the referral. Staff's analysis pertains to general development patterns supported by the regional growth strategy and regional implications, such as the housing needs assessment, water and sewage servicing, regional transportation and carbon sequestration, and parks connectivity. Details such as rainwater management and landscaping are not reviewed since an amendment to the town's official community plan is not required for this development proposal, which would trigger specific engagement requirements with the CVRD based on Local Government Act requirements. Requests of the city outlined in the staff report include The request to ensure that the proposal will not result in an increase in stormwater runoff volume or change in timing of the flows from pre-development conditions, and to ensure that stormwater is adequately managed on site in ways that account for climate change and increasingly frequent and severe storm events. The request to engage with CVRD engineering staff regarding the ability to provide water and required fire flows to this proposed development. The request that a transportation plan for this development identify improvements necessary to provide better access to transit and active transportation opportunities. That consideration be given to the impact of the proposed loss of forest, and that the city work with the applicant to amend the proposal to maintain as much of the existing forest and wetland function as possible. And lastly, that consideration be given to parks and public connection to the Comox logging road at the end of Bickle Street. Staff recommend that this staff report be forwarded to the city as a response to the referral. And I'd be happy to field any questions you might have. And I know that Mr. Nirmand is also available online for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think Director Hardy has a comment or question.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I guess just quickly going through the report, there's, I guess there's, with regards to the servicing infrastructure, there was concern or maybe concern with regards to the city of Courtenay water and sewer infrastructure and how that relates to the CVRD. So I just wondered if the staff could maybe just provide us a little bit more detail.
Through the chair to the committee. So the water and sewer servicing is provided through City of Courtenay infrastructure upgrades. However, the concern is mostly to do with the provision of fire flows for water services with the CVRD. So the comments provided by engineering services is that the City of Courtenay consult with the CVRD in regard to that matter.
Good morning. So I just wanted to ask, I want to just mention something right now. This plan, which was provided to CVRD, still it's basically a working plan. We do not know exactly the number of the lots and number of the units we are going to get because of the concerns we had with the environmental issues around the site. So right now we have our environmental consultant involved, and they are going through the provincial and also cities approval for the exact layout of the site. And the reason we have not conducted any modeling for the water and sanitary, it is because of that, because the footprint of the developable area of the site is not really defined yet. But this would be the maximum number of the units we can get on this property.
Thank you for that. And I think Director Hardy, you were asking if Stephanie could repeat the question you had around, or the answer around, you had the city water and sewer servicing. So Stephanie, maybe if you can just repeat that, and then I may have a follow-up.
Sure, yeah, through the chair to the directors. My comment was merely that the infrastructure upgrades are the City of Courtenay's, the water and sewer infrastructure. The comments from our engineering services department had to do with the provision of adequate supply of water and fire flows. So the comments for that, some consultation is needed between the city and staff on that matter.
Any other questions? Well, of course, here's a conundrum left over from the regional growth strategy, where a little finger of Area C was taken into the city of Courtenay in a previous administration of the city of Courtenay. And this is density that we can only dream of, because anybody else in that in that neighborhood would have to have 18 acres of property in order to divide it into two subdivision into two lots, according to regional growth strategy, which again, I've been saying for years that it's outdated, it should be looked at, but it's not, there's no appetite to do that this time around, so it's probably going to go through. But that's not the point. The point, I think, that's been hammered home at the meeting today is regarding access. City of Courtenay may not be aware of some of the work that our parks have done along the Comox Logging Road about using that corridor as a greenway, as a pedestrian, equestrian, cycling route, active transportation route. I think that when you take a look at the adjoining subdivision as well, there is no easement going through to the Comox Logging Road. So when you talk about the kids going to Arden Road School, which they probably will, they have to go all the way back down Cumberland Road and down Arden Road to the school, when a lot of kids, of course, just cut across and go down the logging road. So, you know, we're talking about trying to nip these kind of things at the bud. So I do think at the very least, if we're going to forward this to the city, we should also give them access to some of the preliminary work that our Parks Department has done around working with the owner of that that right of way, Comox Logging Road. I think Doug DeMarzo was under the understanding it's probably Raven Lumber or Raven Properties or whatever. I thought it was actually the Field family that owned Field Sawmill. So, you know, this is a really good opportunity to make a interconnecting active transportation routes, to have safe travel for kids to school. And the previous subdivision up there that I think the McQueens did, it's the same darn thing. Everything ends in a cul-de-sac, you know, a couple of 100 feet away from the logging road. Now, I know the logging road is not in our jurisdiction, but you know, I think at the very least we should have some kind of a unifying voice to at least approach the owner of that right of way to see if we can gain that right of way, because I mean it fits so well into the big plan. But I this kind of development, you know, ignores all that, and we know better, and I'm sure Courtney's planners know better. So that's my position. I think we have to bring attention to the fact that there's no interconnectivity here. This is a dead end, and it's not in keeping with anybody's policies, City of Courtenay or the regional district. So.
Mr. Chair, I wonder if staff might want to speak to the reference on page 5 in the report about the commentary on that connection to Comox Logging Road at the end of Bickle Street. There is reference in the report to some, I think, referral comments made by the Parks Department. Perhaps that needs to be strengthened, or maybe you could elaborate a little bit on what that part of the staff report makes reference to.
Thanks to the chair, to the directors. Yeah, so the comments on page 5 here, park staff urge the city to consider a parks and public connection to the Comox Logging Road at the end of Bickle Street. The Comox Logging Road, which currently has an informal trail, could potentially serve as a regional trail corridor in the future, and public access to this corridor should be maintained as it was in the Swanson Street subdivision in the north. These are the comments that we received from the Parks Department.
I'm just wondering if that's strong enough language. I think also added to that, the fact that perhaps we could get it on the city's radar that, I mean, it's like putting a connection through to the railway corridor. We don't actually have the corridor. We're using it, but you know, there's liability issues always with those kind of situations. So in the bigger picture, I think we need to flag this big time. That in fact, I think we've got some reports going back to probably before Doug DeMarzo even joined us. Probably would be Michael Niles. regarding dealings with the community up there, Arden Area Association, that where I was adamantly advocating for that logging road to be used as a trail for the community. So I just think it needs to be emphasized as much as possible. So whatever we can do to strengthen the language. Director?
Yeah, my comments are probably a bit outside the scope of but this is, higher density, and I don't even know how it fits with the OCP for the city of Courtenay, where they're trying to encourage growth in their core area, and what that proposal a little bit when I spoke up on subdivisions near the ridge. And of course, the rationale, well, now we have the infrastructure there, but as these things get approved, it really makes me realize that a lot of the parcels near Royston, probably these kinds of proposals are going to come forward, and Courtney's going to sprawl out and fill their boundaries as every other municipalities in the world. So I'm not super keen on this proposal, but it's not really feedback from the regional district. It's outside of scope. So I would just support what Director Grieve said, which is if it's done, let's avoid the Laurel Drive scenario, and let's think about maybe some right of way that connects into Comox Logging Road from that bottom southwest road or something like that. Like, I don't know. I just don't like it that much. But the tone was set when Swenson Road was put in. I thought that was a little bit bizarre, but that's within the purview of the municipality. Thanks.
Director?
Yeah, thanks. I agree with Director Arbor's comments there. I guess the other thing is, again, that safe passage across the highway at the end of the day too. And again, based upon some of the delegations that we've heard this morning from folks from Royston and the safety of walking along a highway or trying to get across a highway, is that something that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later? I'd hate to see a development get put in and then afterwards, there's a whole bunch of discussion revolving around, why didn't we think of safe passage afterwards with regards to getting across the highway? If like you said, we're taking into consideration students that are probably going to end up going to an elementary afterwards or Lake Trail. Thanks.
That brings to mind another thing maybe to add to the list of referrals. What about SD 71? Did they get referred on this? They should be live to this as well. It's going to be a big increase in their enrollment at both those, the junior school and the elementary school. Tom?
Good morning through the chair to the directors. Yeah, I would assume that the city would send a referral to the school district as part of a referral that we received. We didn't send this package to the school district because we're providing comments through our lens.
Dr. Hardy?
Yeah, thanks. And I'm assuming referrals go to Modi and the Ministry of Education as well.
Through the chair to Director Hardy, I would assume that the city would send a referral to the Ministry of Transit and the school district. What we can do is I can reach out to the city manager, planning manager, just to make sure that is addressed. But when we send out, if the board choose to send this report to the city of Courtenay, as part of the letter that I will be sending to them, I can address a couple of these comments that we hear from this meeting.
Are we good? That's about as good as we can get. Now, because it is City of Courtenay. So, but yeah, I think this is a fine opportunity to kickstart some discussion around the right of way on that logging road. There is a bridge out on that logging road that we, at one time, the neighbors were going to bring the chainsaw out, fall a couple of logs across it and build a bridge. But I guess we decide not to go that route or allow it or turn a blind eye to it, I guess. But so yeah, it's ripe for the picking, so to speak. So the more we can emphasize that, whether or not we want to CC them to one of our old reports, if Doug can root around in the basement of the regional district building and find the filing cabinet or the digital filing cabinet where this thing is collecting dust. Okay, enough of that. One more? Oh, sorry. Director Hardy.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So just again, just for my own clarification with regards to if this subdivision was to move forward, how would that work with regards to water and sewer and that infrastructure to tap the city of Courtney infrastructure tapping into the infrastructure of the CVRD? Would those decisions revolve around the sewage committee and the water committee? Like for the approval process to have that infrastructure tapped into?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I know that Mark Rutten is online. He's I think he's online. I'm not sure if he's able to speak today, but so the sewage commission and the water committee are really about supplying potable water and managing the sewage treatment. They don't get into the business of approving or considering individual development applications inside the city of Courtney or inside the town of Comox. The city and the town obviously would have to work within the broad scope of how much water is available, how much sewage can be treated. And there is and not sure how to explain that, I guess, but I do see Mark's hand has gone up. Typically, the sewage commission and the water committee do not get involved in specific development applications. But Mark, I see you've raised your hand. If you can elaborate, perhaps.
Yeah, thanks through the CAO and through the chair. Just want to check that you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, James. I just wanted to say that there's two studies that we're currently working through right now. One is the Water Master Plan, and then the other is Water Extension South project. And both of these projects, especially the Water Master Plan, will consider future growth within the city of Courtney, including this development and many others. Just analyzing how the city will grow over time and where the development nodes of growth will be, and then make recommendations for water system updates. So I think all that's highlighted in this report is that this is an area of the city where some changes will need to be made to the regional system, but those changes are being contemplated and planned for as part of the Water Master Plan, and then for the area more south in Courtney as part of the Water Extension South project. So yeah, these plans are in the works. Those upgrades will be made as part of the Water Master Plan recommended projects, which will happen in the future, and that will end up supporting this area and other areas in the city for development.
Mark, may I ask, is this one of the areas where the city of Courtney actually doesn't supply the water directly to that part of Arden Road? It actually flows through the Comox Valley water system first?
Yeah, it's close to that area, Director
Okay.
Grieve, and as part of the Water Master Plan, we're also looking at separating those to finally make like a clear distinction between the city system and our system in that area.
Yeah, because we don't meter it.
Right.
So again, just trying to seek clarification with regards to whether it flows through the CVRD and then the city of Courtney, or if it flows through the city of Courtney when we start looking at that water and sewage.
Mark, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so the water provided to this development and the sewage services provided will be by the city of Courtney. It's the Comox Valley water system owned by the CVRD that feeds the city, and there's some improvements required to the feed, but ultimately the water and sewer services for this development within the city will be provided by the city of Courtney.
Thanks for that, Mark. I don't see any other questions, so let's go back to receipt. On receipt, anybody opposed? That carries. And recommendation, the staff report with the added information.
I think, Mr. Chair, given the nature of the discussion around the connectivity and the importance of safe passage, the cover letter, we've taken some solid notes here. I think the cover letter can certainly strengthen that interest of the committee, as well as the staff report being included in going to the city of Court.
Perfect, yes. And if we can send along some supporting information, any old reports or something around the importance of that particular roadway, it'd be great. Because I think I've been hammering on this drum since 2008. Good. So the recommendation with the additional information, I'll move it. Seconded. Any opposed? Carried. Next Gen 911 Fire Department grant application. Move to second on receipt. And oh, there he is. He's coming up on the screen.
I see that Bruce Green is online. I wasn't sure if Bruce was presenting or perhaps Doug DeMarzo, but Bruce, you've unmuted yourself, so I'm going to make the assumption that you are presenting this report on Next Gen 911 grant application.
Yeah, thanks.
And you've muted yourself now, or you've become muted somehow.
Okay, let's try this now. Thanks, James, to the CEO, to the chair and the directors. We got word from North Island 911 that UBCM had opened up a grant application opportunity for up to $100,000 for the regional district to apply for funding to help fire departments utilize Next Gen 911. The way we're looking at doing that is purchasing mobile dispatch tablets to put in fire trucks for all the fire departments within the Comox Valley Regional District, which will be in Hornby Island, Denman Island, Fanny Bay, Union Bay, Mount Washington, and Merville. The tablets are we're looking at about $9,000 to $10,000 per tablet all in, so we're looking at $90,000. I think it's important to understand that moving forward, there will be approximately $1,000 per year operating need for the operating budget to cover licenses and data fees to run these systems. It will greatly help the fire departments respond to emergencies and get delicate sensitive information from North Island 911 that we can do on the computer screens and schedule over the air. So with that, I open up to any questions.
Well, if I may jump in, I was at LGLA, Local Government Leadership Academy in Richmond earlier this year. And I'm trying to find my notes, but I wrote it down. It was a staggering amount of money to upgrade the 911 system to the Next Gen 911 in BC alone. Hundreds of millions of dollars. You don't have those figures, do you?
I do not.
Yeah, so we only worry about our backyard. We're good. But it's going to be huge in that they said you basically could be sitting in the fire truck, looking at your phone at the fire in real time, so you know what you got when you get there. That's what I was told.
That is correct, and it gives us real-time data transfer between dispatch and ourselves. So if there's sensitive information that will come up on the screen, we don't have to put that over the air. And it gives us opportunity to put all of our pre-plans on the computers that North Island 911 has and all their mapping opportunities. And for mutual aid partners, we can share that data that way as well.
Pretty amazing, anyway. Pretty stupendous.
Maybe I'll just add, so this particular report and this grant application is being driven by Bruce and his team around the fire services. The CVRD is also a shareholder in the North Island 911 Corporation, and that body is also looking at Next Gen 911 and having discussions and deliberations on technology changes and being able to be compliant as the technology improves. So this report really is focused on the grant applications for the fire services, but there's a lot of work happening in the North Island 911 to support this initiative as well.
This discussion will be continued. Thank you. Okay, so without any further ado, on the report, any opposed? Carries. And recommendation? I think Richard's putting this one forward, Richard. Okay, I'll second it. On recommendation, any discussion? Call the question. Anybody opposed? That carries. So how are we doing for lunch?
It's here.
So what be the desire of the committee? Do you guys want to have fill your plate and have a working lunch? Okay, so we'll take a break. All you people out there in Cyberland, Please let me know if I'm wearing my food. Does this buttered chicken look good on me? That's pretty cool. Okay, we're gonna bring forward the proposed boat ramp user fees. And it's been, report has been forwarded and firsted by Director Arbor and seconded by Director Grief. And over to the CAO.
Thank you, Chair. Mark Hart, our Parks Planner, will be introducing this report and available for any questions you may follow. Mark, over to you.
Thank you to the chair and through the chair and to the directors. Thank you. So just to recap, we've met twice on this. In the past, the CVRD Parks Department currently manages 2 boat ramps, one at Bill Mee Park and one at Shingle Spit Boat Ramp on the islands. Those ramps are currently funded, operation of those ramps is currently funded entirely through a tax requisition through the Park Services. In October 2023, this committee requested that staff come back with a proposal for boat ramp user fees for the Shingle Spit boat ramp as part of the redesign and redevelopment of that boat ramp. Staff came back in June of 2024 with proposal for with fees for all boat ramps in the CVRD, and the committee asked that we come back with more information about fees elsewhere in the region. The fees proposed in this report are based on 2 sources of information. The first being a market comparison of other fees charged elsewhere in the region. The fees we're proposing here are below the median values charged at other ramps, although I will say that the fees vary wildly from one ramp to another. The other component of our decision framework was a benefit-based approach. The idea being looking at who benefits from the ramps and who uses the ramps and who should pay for the ramps. And in working with the finance department, we came to the idea of a 75% user benefit approach or a benefit continuum. So the goal would be for the operations of the ramp to be funded by 75%, funded 75% by user fees and 25% by tax requisition. The proposed fees align with the market analysis, and we will track and monitor the fees as we go forward if they are approved to determine whether they meet that 75% threshold. The fees we're proposing are a $2 non-motorized vehicle fee per day, a $10 motorized vehicle fee per day, and a $35 annual pass. The non-motorized vehicle fee represents a $1 decrease from the current fees charged at Bill Mee Park. And the day pass is a $5 increase from the current fees charged at Bill Mee, and the annual pass is a $10 increase from the existing fees charged at Bill Mee. No fees are currently charged at Shingle Spit. We're recommending these fees be included in the Parks Regulations bylaw through an amendment, and that we be directed to notify the public of those changes and that they come into effect on January 1st, 2026.
Director Arbor?
Yeah, thanks for the work on this, and I'm supportive of the proposed schedule. I know initially a couple of years ago when we were looking at the Shingle Spit replacement, I had wild dreams that we'd be able to do capital replacement and asset management through user fees. No. So I think coming up with the 75% of operation, I mean, I've talked to people as recently as last month. I went to the DERA EGM, and I did get some feedback on the boat ramp where people were like not entirely happy, but I did explain that we're putting significant public investment in infrastructure that tends to be most of the time used, by a small group of people. So, and I think that strikes a balance for $35 for the year for most islanders. Like I think that's very, very reasonable, and it also helps legitimize to others why we continue to invest capital, because the users are also chipping in, at least for the operation, right? So I think that's staff kind of hit the mark, I think, on this one. So I'm happy to support the recommendation. Thanks.
We're on receipt, so I'll ask a question. How many boat ramps do we actually have that's under the jurisdiction of CVRD? I would imagine the Royston one a private one, or is it, Union Bay? Did it transfer to us from the improvement district? Yes, so I figured it might be, yeah.
Did you want staff to answer that question on how many parks CVRD?
Yeah, just rough and ready.
How many boat ramps CVRD has responsibility for? If you have that, Mark?
More or less, anyway, yeah.
So if I could just ask through the chair, if I could ask for a little clarification. Currently, we are responsible for operating 2 boat ramps.
Oh.
Those are operated through license agreements with the province. But there are numerous boat ramps within the regional district.
No, I know there are, yeah.
And the 2 are, Mark?
Oh, sorry, Bill Mee Park and Shingle Spit.
Thanks.
Okay. Director?
Since we're on that topic, and it's somewhat related, but I think I was talking with James about this. The Royston Boat Lounge, which is not a. So we had a question because I may have forgotten last year when we were going to look at the viewpoint in one of the reports, but the other aspects last summer, which I thought I'd include in my motion, was to look at the operation of that boat launch for small boats and the problems that exist there. Can you just, while we're on that topic, can you just clarify who has jurisdiction? Because it seems to go straight through our park, through the Royston Seaside Trail, but it's not considered a formal boat ramp or lounge, or I don't know.
Thank you, and through the chair. So you're right that we have referred traditionally to that that path to the ocean, to the estuary, as a boat launch. Staff have looked at it as part of our work to redesign or redevelop the Royston Seaside viewing platform, and as a result of your direction, this committee's direction, it is. I don't think it necessarily falls into the category of boat ramp, certainly not in the way that Bill Mee or Shingle Spit does. We've done some research on that. It is within our license area, but it is operated and maintained by the province.
Okay, interesting. So if we wanted to charge a fee to small boats that use that boat launch, is there a pathway to do that, or it would have to be through the province? Anyways, maybe that's for a future report. Right now, this is very specific to our boat ramp, but I am obviously curious about that because of the issues we've had in Royston. Thanks, Chair. Thanks for the bit of information.
Always informative. Director Hardy.
Yeah, regarding Royston and whether or not that's a boat ramp, I think there probably have to be a conversation with the Comox First Nation, being that their shellfish aquaculture tenure is a licensed occupation in that area, or so that ramp going over top of the Comox First Nation shellfish aquaculture tenure might be something that you might want to do a little bit of homework on before deciding whether or not you're going to charge a fee. Thanks.
Director Arbor.
Thanks for that information, Richard. I wasn't aware. So, so is that boat launch used by the aquaculture by KFN actively?
I believe that area below the low tide mark is the Comox First Nation shellfish aquaculture tenure.
Yeah.
So I have seen in the past Camelot Seafoods utilize that little area that people drive along for aquaculture purposes. So
Okay, that's good, useful information. Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion on that? So I don't see any. On receipt of report, anybody opposed? Carries and recommendation attached. Seconded. $35 a year is a deal. That's not even a tank of gas. Not even. Okay, so on the recommendation, anybody opposed? Carries. Now the moment you've all been waiting for, the Parks Project update. The spring of 2025. And over to Mark Harrison. Turn you on, Mark. There you go.
Thank you. Through the chair to the directors, each spring, Parks likes to bring forward where our projects are at and just provide an operational update. It's just for information only. And then just happy to be here to answer any questions as well. So if we can move on, I guess I should maybe grab the clicker. Yeah, so the report, I'll touch base on some of the key projects that we're working on right now, including the Lazo Greenway, the Dyke Road Park, our Denman Cross Island Trail, the Shingle Spit Boat Launch, and where we're at with Maris Nature Park Management Planning, and then just touch a little bit on operations and kind of where we're at right now. So the Lazo Greenway, it's progressing really well. It's largely been completed. It's been a really great synergy project with the engineering department. So my kudos to the engineering department and thank them very much for all the support they've given us throughout this project. The area from basically Forester to Simba is largely completed. There's a few outstanding areas. So the parking area around Brent Road still needs to get completed, and there's a section of trail within the town near Beckton that need to be completed because there's some more engineering works that need to happen in there. But largely those sections of trail are usable by the public, and from what I've seen, it's already getting lots of use, and the public seems to be happy with that project. The section between Forester and Butchers Road that hasn't started. I believe they're just starting to work on the sewer main line within that section of road right now, and then they'll follow up with the new section of trail in that section in coordination with that sewer work. So I think all in all, I think things are going well. Those pictures that are provided, the one section with the paved section is within the town of Comox. The one with the gravel is actually going over the Lazo Marsh area. And the delineators there make sure that there's safer passage for pedestrians. And then also within that section, which is interesting, is we've added some amphibian fencing and some culverts under there to ensure better ecological connectivity through that marsh area. The Dyke Road project, I'm sure the public has started to see the new boardwalk that's been constructed out there on Dyke Road Park. Our phase one of that project, which concentrates on the estuarian work, is largely completed. Over 20,000 plants got planted in there. Lots of regrading, reshaping of the land to create more ecological value and more opportunity for fish passage in that area. So lots of really exciting things happening with that project. A huge thank you to all the volunteers that came out and helped plant. It's a lot of plants to put in the ground, and it just never would have been feasible or possible without all the volunteers that have come to help us with that. As I said, the boardwalk through that section has now been completed, and the next phase will be to kind of move to the upland portion of the park. We are still looking at trying to finalize the design, but we're getting very close to that, finalizing that design for phase two.
again, thanks a lot to the engineering department for kind of working with us in support of that project. A lot of really great collaboration within the departments. Demo Cross Island Trail, that work is still progressing. We are hoping to be completed the trail sometime in June. A large portion of the trail has been completed. We're working still on sections around McFarland Road and then south towards Thomas Road. But the sections around Gravelly Bay, ferry terminal have been completed, and the other sections near Owl Crescent have been completed. So that one's progressing and hopefully done in the next month or so. Shingle Spit, so we have completed the design for the Shingle Spit boat launch. This is, obviously on Hornby Island. We are working towards issuing an RFP for that work, with construction being planned for this summer 2025, within the marine fish window. So that kind of gives us a timing of between June and September. So likely construction sometimes probably in July. But basically we're going to have an extended boat ramp. It'll be 41 meters in length. The ramp itself is just under 8 meters wide with 5.4 meters of clear width. On top of that, on one side, we're going to have our floating board floats on the one side that will actually end up lying on the ramp in low tide. That'll be through a steel pile system, and the floats will be 2.5 meters wide with a 2 meter clear width on those floats. The ramp itself will be a precast concrete panels over a steel frame, and supported with riprap on the sides. So yeah, exciting project. It's nice to see the design getting completed, and we'll work towards RFP and then construction. In terms of our park planning, our major park planning piece that we're working on this year is the Maris Nature Park. So we've completed the background study, we've done all our inventory analysis, and we're starting on our community engagement. We've already been at a couple events, one at the Mars Wildlife Rescue site and one at Eagles Drive Park. And then we have another community event happening at Sarah and Brian McLaughlin Park on May the 25th. Survey is open to the public and it runs until the end of May. So we're looking to really help identify values and features within that space that it's important to the community, and like to see what they would like to see there in the short and the long term. So that for those that are listening online, you can access that to the engagecomoxvalley.ca /Maris to access that survey. So hoping to get as much input and feedback from the public as possible. And then just want to quickly just touch on kind of operationally, as we enter into the summer months, things start to really ramp up for us operationally. So, a lot more load on the staff to manage the maintenance and the operational side of our parks, which can be challenging as we have a number of projects that are running at the same time, and the staff are trying to manage those complicated projects at the same time. So resource wise, it's a little bit tough on our department right now. Some of the main things is hazards. We had a number of winter storms this year, so it resulted in significant wind throw at a bunch of our parks, and that seems to be kind of increasing each year. The wall at Goose Spit Park got compromised again this year, which is kind of an ongoing task. It's quite a large piece of infrastructure for our department to be managing, and we will need to look at some way to kind of manage that in a more sustainable fashion moving forward. Our beach fire program that started up on May 1st, it's already seeing heavy use. So the public are obviously happy to see that started again. So the fire rings are out, and we've also put out our accessibility mats at Goose Spit, as well as at Saratoga Beach Access Park. So adding to that accessibility piece to get people out onto the beach. Our invasive plant program is well underway. Broom Busters is out there tackling the ongoing broom epidemic out there. We've also got a plan to work with Sambra to open up Laval Road. So do some invasive species removal there to make it a little bit easier for the public to get out to the beach out on Laval Road. So that seems to be successful, and we're working well with the Sambra organization on that. And then our park students have started, so it's been really great help to have a couple students on board this year in terms of helping us with our operational capacity. Yeah, so with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. Thanks.
Director Arbor?
Yeah, thank you. For area 8, there's just a couple of things I would highlight. One is the boat ramp. Like I'm pretty impressed if you can issue an RFP in mid-May and have somebody in place to complete the work in the summer. So I'm hoping you've got a couple of contractors that are in the wings. But is that, I guess my question is that feasible? You know, if even if the RFP, hopefully it is. I'm hoping for it. And if you are successful in that, and you're looking to start in June, and you're wrapping up the Cross Island section in June, as a politician, I'm like, oh, a groundbreaking and a ribbon cutting on the same day, that kind of would be really fun. So I'll put that out there, that I think those two projects have really stuck my neck out on the boat ramp for sure. The Cross Island Trail is a much longer term project, but that's a significant section that we can celebrate. So I'd be really happy to look at that. If not with staff, then I can probably arrange my own. But in terms of the Royston, I was looking at the good work being, because I remember Dr. Hardy making comments about the viewpoint platform, which I know residents of Royston absolutely want to see replaced, but you had some good points around some of the other options. I was looking at the success of the Dyke Road project and how we went about it, engagement with KFN, and coming up with a structure that, you know, was kind of working well for everybody's needs, award-winning project. So I'm just wondering if that option, I know we'll get a report on the Royston, but like, has that Dyke Road been considered for the Royston context, the approach we took there? Or because lastly, I'll say residents of, we were supposed to have an open house this spring, I think, rent a hall and have community engagement of Royston residents around that project, and that hasn't happened. So I'm just wondering if I could get a little bit of more info or update on that particular one.
Yeah, through the directors, at this stage, we're not considering that same approach with Dyke Road for Royston. We're kind of trying to look at that for potentially for Goose Spit. And so we've kind of got that kind of grant funding stream happening for that project. I think that's a larger endeavor, I think, than what we're kind of considering. I think at this stage, we were just considering, are we going to look at replacing that ramp, or do we want to remove that ramp? But we weren't looking at necessarily a larger site project there for that, unless that's something you want to consider. But that we're going to have to get into kind of more grant applications and a lot longer process.
Maybe one thing I can add to that is the parallel in working with Comox on the Dyke Road project, and then working with Comox around some of those cultural interests for the Royston viewing platform. So there's certainly a lot of collaboration and dialogue happening in that regard. And we will be coming back to the committee with report on options around the viewing platform and the Royston Seaside Trail.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I know that report is upcoming, so maybe we'll save the discussion for at that time. And for the, is that notable, the potential, you know, celebration and groundbreaking for the boat ramp and stuff like that? Is that something that staff could consider?
Marked on the Shingle Spit and Cross Island Trail. I'm not sure what specifically had been talked about there, but certainly we can look at the events around that.
Yeah, no, I think those are great things to celebrate. So so we'll look into that and make sure that happens.
Awesome, thank you.
I'm just going to ask a couple of questions. Regarding the spit and the fire rings, when there's a fire ban on, do we actually come and dig up the rings and take them away? That's
Yeah.
a good plan. Okay, good.
Yeah.
The other one was speaking of the dike, the old Lafarge property. Is there anything slated for that? Any kind of an upgrade on that slated with maybe in partnership with KFN or anything else that you know of, or it's just sort of a static little park right now? Because I know at one time, I think the Billy's family owned a foreshore lease just on one side that they bring their boat up on all the time, and they were going to they were in negotiations with us to sell that at one point, but whether or not we did any, I don't think we did anything with it because it wasn't really part of our plan. So, but the Lafarge property is just basically just a static little turnout right now, right? Just a viewpoint.
Yeah, that's correct. Through the director to the CEO, to the directors, that one we pushed that back, and we wanted to wait on the Dyke Road Park project finishing and the Couscous Sum project finishing.
Okay.
And then we were going to look at the Lafarge site next.
Kind of
was the
ties
plan.
into all that.
Yeah.
Director?
Yeah, thanks. And just talking about the Lafarge property, and I know in the past, Area B constituents have come in as a delegation requesting some type of a ramp of some sort there for people to safely put kayaks into the water and for people to be able to go back and swim in and around that area. So again, just flagging that one. So if we are working on that project down the road, that we have those in the back of our minds as well. Thanks.
And just one further one, at the last Sambra AGM last week, they were talking about the invasive species, working with you guys on that. The other one was around working maybe with Moti again around the Air Road, and whether or not we could get a license of occupancy on that one as well. At least for a porta potty and garbage and stuff like that to keep the beach clean, and for parking, which is huge down there, of course. So, but right now, it was an either with Seaman and Air Road, right? We kind of moved everything up to, or down to Seaman Road. So was there any possibility think of, because right now it's still being used, as you know, but it's just a highways road end, right? Or not even a road end, it's just what would you call it?
Yeah, it is a beach access, and people are using it to park. We do have a porta potty there in place.
We do.
But it is seasonal. So unlike the Saratoga beach access, which is on Seaman Road, there's the permanent outhouse.
Yeah.
So the one we install a seasonal one on Air Road to
But
help
we
with that.
service it.
We do, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And the option of taking Seaman Road up to, is it Henderson? Joins up with Henderson. That was something we talked about at one time too, to also create more parking. And I think outside of the one property owner that's adjacent to it, most of the Sambra group seem to be for it. So I don't know if it's something we can, and I think the Fire Chief Green was for it too, because of the connectivity, being able to bring fire trucks through there. So I just wondering, is that still on the horizon maybe?
I think at the time, we looked at that and it wasn't supported. So that's why we just shifted to just the Seaman area between Clarkson and the beach. I don't know, I think the residents and some of the other residents didn't want to have a full vehicle through fare through that dedication. But that's something that maybe things have changed that we could look at again.
Well, even if it didn't go right through, maybe it could be dead ended on the west side. It's just more parking, because they're crying out for more parking, of course. That's a big, I don't even know how we can have those resorts down there when they don't have adequate parking. Because apparently, I heard that some of the resort, people working in the resorts are permanently parking in those spots. So.
Yeah, we have heard that, and bylaw is going to be helping action that.
Yeah, and where else they're gonna park, I guess, so it's an issue anyway. That's about it. Okay, so on the parks update.
Mr. Chair, if I can, I want to thank Mark and his team for presenting this
Yeah.
parks update on, I think it's a couple times a year we try to present this, and it really is to highlight the work plan that you have in front of you, get some feedback from the committee members, and I think for your team also to celebrate a lot of this good work, because it goes under the Electoral Area Services Committee radar sometimes. Certainly it's recognized in the public, but I just want to extend our appreciation to you and your team. Thanks.
Yes, very good. And I think if there's anything we're going to leave back for future generations, as for a legacy of this little committee, it will be the parks. We just have to get more parks in Area A. Okay, so on receipt, anybody opposed? I'm hard. I just got my hearing aids. I just turned them off. Good. That carries. And Richard's leaving because we're discussing the Water Service South Extension project update. I imagine DC was leaving. Richard just stepped out of the meeting. Let the notes. Point of order.
Just a comment was made that I think on the record that he was stepping because of water sub, but isn't that the purview of the director to state their reason for leaving the meeting? And
yes, I asked if he said anything.
Yeah, we just didn't hear it from
my understanding is Director Hardy's just stepped out of the meeting here for the moment.
For the moment, so it's not a recuse or anything like that.
He hasn't recused himself in this instance.
Thank you.
So we should continue? Okay, we're going to continue on this. So Water Service South Extension Project update. Report for receipt. Second. And over to CEO.
Thanks.
This must be important. We got Charlie. We never get Charlie.
Thanks, Chair. Charlie Gore, our Senior Manager of Capital Projects Delivery, will be introducing this report and available for any questions. And I believe Mark is still online if questions arise to Mark. So Charlie, over to you.
Thank you, CAO. Thank you, Chair. It's nice to be here at the EAC. I don't get to come here very often. Yeah, this is a very brief update on the Water South Extension project. It's been a couple of years since we've brought an update to the EASC, and the project really has picked up steam recently with the positive treaty vote. And we've been working closely with our partners, City of Courtenay and Comox First Nation on this project, and everyone is very keen to see this project proceed. We still see it as an extremely good value project for the Royston Water Local Service Area, jumping on this project with two other partners to bring water south, with the driver for Royston being that Cumberland has asked for us to look for an alternate source because of the growth that's happening in the Cumberland area. And so there's an updated timetable in the staff report, just to acknowledge that we are behind the schedule that was communicated back in 2013, but we are hoping to push forward quite quickly on the project with the EASC support to start detailed design whilst we are still moving through the motions of getting finalized project agreements with the two other parties regarding how we fund the project and how we manage the implementation through detailed design, construction, commissioning, and then any sort of arrangements with if there are any latecomers, any as the project proceeds into operation. And so that's the recommendation that is brought to the EASC today is that we get the approval to start that detailed design with the driver there, that we have a deadline for the grant for that project for it to be substantially complete by March 2028. And so we are worried that if we delay any further whilst we get the project agreements in place, that we are at risk of not meeting that grant deadline. and that we will be coming back to the AIC with a much more fulsome update on the cost for the project, the cost apportionment, and the cost per user once we have worked through some of the fine details with our two parties on water supply needs. There's an important meeting with planning coming up next week regarding the growth in the Southlands. Southlands including South Courtenay, Royston, Union Bay areas, just to make sure that the growth estimates for that project are accurate and apples to apples for that cost apportionment of that project. So that's my summary. I'm happy to answer any questions on the report.
Director Harbour?
Yeah, thanks. The problem when projects take longer than they were supposed to is gives me time to mull about other options. And I mean, maybe I'm reading too much between the line in the report, but it talks a lot about negotiations between the CVRD and Comox and Courtenay around that cost apportionment. And we presented the residents of Royston's with some estimates ahead of that. I also happen to know that with new mayor and council in Cumberland, there's a backstop for me. We could go back to Cumberland and keep everything the same, in my opinion, based on conversations with the mayor. So I just don't want, I want to feel like we're well represented, that Area A is well represented in those negotiations. There's a lot at stake. Royston is facing huge cost pressures, especially as we consider the future of South Sewer. So I'm just wondering, part of the reason why you're coming today to advance the detail is because the three partners haven't been able to come to terms, from what I read in the report, on the MOU. Right? Is that correct? Because I'm just wondering what is the flag? Is it that Courtenay and Comox say that Roystoners should pay way more? Like, I've got a lot of questions that I don't have answers to in that report. Right?
Yeah, I think there's several questions there. So I want to start off by saying that I am a Royston water user, and I take my taxes very seriously. And so the Cumberland usage, the information you have from the mayor is very different than what we have from the operators on the ground. Last time we had an open house at the Fallen Alders with regards to this project, among others, there was the senior operator from the Cumberland water system there was listening to me talk to another resident about why we needed this project. And he said, thank God, because our water system is redlining in the summer, and these summers keep getting drier and drier, and we keep building more houses up on Kendall. So we're getting very different information from the people on the ground that are managing that water system. I don't agree that we could continue to keep using Cumberland water for Royston in the long term. The second thing there is value for money. I think we have looked at an alternate supply for Royston without these two partners in this project, and you're talking about triple the cost. And so I think we, as a Royston water user, are getting incredible value for jumping on this Water South Extension project. The third part of that, my understanding of that question was, are we getting driven into any sort of negotiation? That is not where we're at right now. So I have been the principal drafter of the project agreement, which we've shared with the three parties. We haven't actually received any feedback other than discussions around water supply needs. And they're three separate conversations. So we do our projections for 20 years for the Royston area based on the work we do with planning on how it's going to develop. City of Courtenay has their own development plans, as do Comox First Nation. And so until we have those water projections, that's how we split up the costs for the project. So I don't have updated costs for the EASC because we don't have those maximum day demand water supply needs for each party to provide the updated cost apportionments. But there has been no whittling down. There has been no counter negotiations even commenced yet. We've shared a draft project agreement, but we as the Comox Valley water system delivering this project as the project manager for it. There is no, it's a very basic agreement that says each party that uses a piece of infrastructure, for example, the initial piece that comes from Lake Trail Road down Arden that all partners use, all the costs are just split by the amount of water flowing through those pipes. And as we get further down, for example, the section that's going up Royston Road that only benefits Royston is only paid for by Royston residents. And the last piece I want to remind the EASC is the way that the cost apportionment is done is it's compared to the original route of the project, which was done with just Comox First Nation and Royston. And so what we are doing to make sure that Royston get the equivalent deal as they were before the city jumped on board was that we have a parallel cost estimate for that original route to make sure that any additional costs that are borne by Royston from the city jumping on board as a third partner are reapportioned to the other two parties, and that Royston maintains that good deal that they had with the original project. So I hope that answers the multitude of kind of components to the question, but I'm deep in the details on this one, so very happy to answer lots of detailed questions.
This is a very reassuring answer, and so thank you for it. And it wasn't as spelled out in the report, and so I love the initial framework we negotiated with Courtney and KFN. And so what I'm hearing is, especially your sentence, that it doesn't come from the other two parties, the delays or the framework or anything like that. It's just okay. So that's good news to me, as long as we keep sailing. So it's just we ran into delays, maybe because it wasn't as high a priority or there were other projects or something like that. Okay.
It was the unknowns of treaty, and that was, it was very hard to move forward with Comox First Nation as a partner when they didn't know if the Southlands was going to move ahead. Now with such a strong treaty ratification vote, there is a lot of impetus behind the project. The city are also very keen for this project, and so we have two very keen partners, along with Royston, who I still do really believe it's a wonderful value project for all three parties, and we are very much protecting that value for Royston, and that will come through on the next report. As I think the last paragraph in the report says, we are going to come back with a very fulsome cost apportionment, and you'll see in that the cost estimate for the original route and the reapportionment away from Royston's cost to maintain that commitment that any additional partner, any change in project should not disadvantage an original partner to the project.
That's great. And the design costs come out of the grant or the
yeah, so the design costs are covered by the grant. The grant costs covers 73% of the costs, and then we split the remaining 27% with three parties. So, Royston is paying 9 cents on the dollar for every dollar we spend on the detailed design moving forward.
Okay, wonderful. I'll be happy to support the recommendation. Thanks, Chair. And thanks, Charles.
No worries.
Well, being the grizzled old curmudgeon here at the table, I always look at timelines and add at least a year to anything. So my question, though, is it says that we're looking at a finalized agreement by the end of the year. But we do, because we do know that there's an election coming up in 2026. And, there could be some turnarounds on some of the councils and whatever. So just, I'm hoping that we can actually get that on paper, get something signed. So we got that assuredness, that certainty, because we've all found out in the last couple of months on the international scope how things can change dramatically. Director, something else?
I think that's not an invalid comment, Chair, and I think it's I'm feeling very confident about the water, but I think your comments pertain probably even more with the sewage project, which is on a slightly longer timeline. And so, and I've seen comments from past politicians in the valley that they don't like that project. So, but yeah, for now, for today, I think this is really good news that we're getting this slightly on the faster track, and then also that was good information about from the Cumberland operations perspective, I hate that I don't have a great backstop, but hey, you just said it as it is, so it's fine.
Okay, so that's it for discussion on receipt. Anybody opposed? That carries. The recommendation is attached. The staff commenced the detailed design process for the Water South Extension project prior to approval of the agreement with project partners to allow for implementation of the project prior to grant funding deadline, hopefully much prior. Okay, that's the motion. I'll move it. Any discussion? Anybody opposed? That carries. And here's one, Comox First Nation grant funding request. Moved and seconded. I'll second it.
Mr. Chair, Kelly Broughton, Manager of Financial Planning, will be introducing this report. Kelly.
Good afternoon. Thank you through the CAO to the chair. Staff are here requesting a budget amendment in the amount of $20,000 to be approved for a contribution to support the June 21st, 2025 National Indigenous Peoples Day celebration hosted by the Comox First Nation. The contribution will be split equally between the electoral area's Heritage Conservation Services. However, as Area A, Bain Sound Service does not have the budget or reserves available to pull the funding from, their contribution would be borrowed from the General Admin Future Expenditure Reserve and repaid during the 2026 to 2030 financial planning cycle with the applicable interest included. Staff are further proposing that an annual contribution be included in the future financial planning process. For areas B and C, this would mean that approximately $7,000 would be added to each budget. The tables on page 3 of the staff report show the impact of the additional funding on a typical single-family residential property assessed at $865,000, which equates to $4.14 for area B and $3.35 for area C. As area A, Bain Sound will also need to include the existing shortfall for the 2024 contribution, as well as the 25 and 26 contributions. The total requisition for that area will increase to $15,870. The estimated cost per single family residence in 2026 is estimated to be $5.93, but will fall to $3.21 in 2027, as only the current year contribution will be needed. Thank you, and staff are available for questions.
Director Arbor, what do you have to say for yourself?
Yeah, very much in support. I think we did that the last couple of years. So is there merit in sort of putting that on a long-term kind of plan so that KFN can have, you know, if we had a 3 or 5 year agreement around this thing so that we have the security and we don't have to revisit every year, that could be good.
Would it fit under the arts and culture?
Well, actually, Director Arbor, that thought crossed my mind after we had published this report as something that we've now seen at least a couple of times.
Yeah.
And it would be wise to have a policy of sorts that would embed this into the financial planning process more completely. And so I would take it upon ourselves to do that following consideration today and bring something back well in front of the next financial planning cycle to anticipate this kind of a commitment. And I would suggest it would come through the Heritage Conservation Services.
Yes.
Where you see it today.
Perfect. Yeah, that would be wonderful through the chair to do that. In fact, a couple of years ago, before I got so busy these days, I don't bring a lot of stuff forward anymore, but in terms of this kind of thing, but I was thinking it'd be nice to actually rename the name of the service to instead of Heritage, like Reconciliation Heritage or something like that, that we still don't have a great vehicle in the rural areas for clearly collaborating with Comox First Nation, and I think they're in a different category than arts and culture, or you know, that kind of thing. So I was thinking about doing that a couple of years ago, just haven't gotten to it. But I think in lieu of that, a more lasting agreement would be valuable.
Okay. So we have the report for receipt. I'm going to call a question on that one. Anyone opposed? That carries. And the long-winded recommendation attached? You think the director?
Are we okay to vote for area B, or should just a consideration here? I typically don't try not to vote on people's other money when they're not here, but
Well,
I know the answer, but I'm just raising it like Director Grievous. Should we could, I mean, what I'm saying is we could wait until Director Hardy comes back. I don't know if there's a conflict on this one.
Well, he is on council.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe there is. But regardless, I do it for John Rice and Area D all the time, so.
You vote for John Rice
I
and
do it all the time.
Okay.
I take his proxy.
All right, otherwise we'll just hear back and get a slap on the fingers. So, all right, I'll second the recommendation.
I think, were you okay to proceed, do you think? Okay, so anybody opposed? Carries. So what do we have? We have just a recommendation to go into camera? No, we have a, no
Mr.
con,
Chair,
yeah,
actually
because there's no addendum.
No addendum, but there was two new business
Oh, we
items
wanted,
potentially
yeah,
that
we wanted some direction
maybe
to
coming
staff
out
here.
of the delegation. There was the delegation on Laurel Heights and the delegation on the Denman Island Community Education Society, I believe. Go ahead.
So with Laurel Heights, I think upon consideration, I think I'll do a follow-up with the group following this meeting. And for the Denman Island would maybe be a request, if it's supported by the RESC, to ask staff to consider a new arrangement with DICES as part of financial planning, and to consider utilization, for example, considering utilization of the recreation service and consolidating existing sources of funding for them. That's a really long-winded motion, but I'm just trying to put down the spirit of it. Yeah, to change, yeah. Was that, yeah, including utilizing the rec service. So I'm looking for like a longer term, and it was interesting speaking, there's no motion on the table, I'm just speaking right now, but you know, the fact that their money comes from in 3 different shapes from CVRD, and that they have higher need and potentially higher potential, are asking for larger amounts. I think there's merit, and I would just like staff to investigate what could a reconfigured arrangement with DICES could look like, some options. And it was early.
I'll second it. Director Hardy.
Yeah, just seeking some clarifications. So if I understand correctly from what Director Arbor has mentioned, is that there's currently DICES receives 3 different funding sources or whatever from the CBRD. Could I get clarification as to the 3 sources and then what the total value is? Don't know if we have all of that information here. I do remember on the slide there was reference to funding coming from Denman Works, which is the Denman Economic Development Service. There was funding from the Denman Rural Community Grant Service, as well as funding coming through Denman Economic Enhancement, DERA. And that funding, which service does that funding come through? Which one's 605? So 3 different sources. So a staff report could certainly speak to the sources of current funding, and then that possibility of new arrangements for a longer term commitment, including possibly through the Denman Recreation Service.
just so that there's no confusion about the regional recreation service, let's write down the Denman Island Recreation Service. I'm not asking the region to pay for dices.
Okay, does that look good? Anybody opposed to that motion? It carries. And what are we gonna do about MOTT and access for kids and bringing that? I mean, I personally think this is something we need to discuss with the school district, with the trustees somehow. We need a kind of a united front, because it's just so easy, you know, for at least at the local level, ministry to, you know, just say, well, we can't do it, it's not in the budget, blah, blah, blah. So do you have any idea?
I think there's two levels to that. I'd like to update the directors, like actually Richard saw me in a meeting on Friday when you bumped into the building, but we were actually meeting with the head of Vancouver Island Ministry, Mike Pearson, and
Oh yeah, Mike's good.
yeah, and we had Kellen as well, and this was all about Mystery Beach, but we ended up in a pretty encouraging conversation around over time, maybe changing the future of Highway 19A and transferring it to a local route. That's the long-term pictures. And also to better facilitate active transportation, like we're running into problems with the Royston project due to policy conflicts and stuff like that. So I think we sense a desire from them to work with us. So let's continue that. On the more specific, if you were talking about the Royston Laurel Height thing, is that what you were referencing? That one, the action can be left with me for now. I'll commit to meet with the group and to do a little bit of investigating. And then if we're not fruitful in that, we can bring it back when we talk about strategy and prioritization of the parks. But I think for now, without staff is okay. Leave it with me just for a little bit, and we'll come back.
I'd like to know, I wonder how many actual crosswalks, delineated crosswalks there are in 19A. I think there's one
in area A. There's one.
I think there's
Yeah,
one
in a
that's
stretch of 30 kilometers.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So there needs to be something that, not that they're gonna slow down from doing 100 clicks, but.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we ready to move into camera? So a motion to move to the closed portion of the meeting. Any opposed? Oh. What's that thermostat doing? I feel cold in here. Is it colder or is it just me? See, and that's got a big sweater on. Oh yeah, I can get the in camera now. They put it back on. Look at that. Okay. Put a coat on, hell that.